Greetings and salutations, and thank you for clicking on this video. Today I want to talk about administering your Linux network of computers. Now, for those of you who only have one Linux computer because you've just started out, you haven't figured out yet that Linux computers are sort of kind of like potato chips. You can't just have one. Because, hey, somebody might give you a machine, or you might see one somewhere used that you want to pick up, and the first thing that you're going to want to do is load Linux on it, right? Because Linux is free to download, free to install. And pretty soon you realize that you can have as many computers as you want, and the next thing you know, you got a whole house full of computers. In my case, I've got 3 computers. One of them is a desktop, one of them is a really kind of snazzy laptop that's good for watching videos and playing games on. That's what my kids use. And then I have my kind of junker HP laptop that I usually do these videos from. You guys have seen that. So I need to take care of all these machines, make sure they're all up to date, and I could go around from one machine to the next and kick who's ever using the machine, tell them to go away. But I don't do that. I use some tools to take care of this, and the main tool that I want to talk about today is SSH, because SSH is awesome. I did a video not too long ago about getting started with SSH, and since I have posted that video, I have used it pretty much every day. I don't know what was wrong with me. I knew about SSH, but for a while I just didn't use it. I didn't have it set up on my systems, and now that I'm using it, I'm going, wow, how did I ever live without it? So I'm going to show you some of the basic things on how SSH works. Now, this video is not a tutorial of how to set this stuff up. I am not going to show you all of the options and all of the things that you can do. This is a demonstration of the technology, and I strongly encourage you to do some research and find out about some of the things I'm going to talk about here and some of the tips and tricks on your own. Mr. Google is your friend. You can look up lots of great tutorials on how to install and set up SSH. And we'll talk a bit more about that as we roll along. So, what is SSH? Well, that is the secure shell. And it is a way that you can log into a computer over a network. So let's do it right now. So, command would be SSH. If the machine has an account that is exactly the same as the account that you're logging in from, in other words, you have an account on that machine, you don't need to tell it what account it is. All you need to do is just put in the IP address or the host name of that machine, depending on how your network is set up. Mine is set up to use IP addresses. So the first machine that we're going to log into is the great big Dell desktop that's in the back. So we're now logged in, and as you can see, it gives me a message to let me know that I'm logged in, what machine it is. It's telling me that all of the packages are updated, so this is pretty cool. Now, I didn't have to put in a password because I have set SSH up with key authentication. This is where you generate unique keys, and you have one on the local machine that you're getting into, the machine that you're getting into a remote machine from. You have these keys and they talk to each other, and that way there's no passwords involved. That's safer. If somebody is going to be sniffing your network and trying to break into your systems using SSH, if you have password authentication set up, then you might end up with a situation where they can brute force their way in. Keys are very hard to get into, so I would suggest at some point down the road that you look into setting that up for yourself. So that makes it easier too for me, because if I'm getting into one of my local network machines, then it's no big deal. Okay, so we're into this machine. What can we do here? Well, we can do anything in this machine that we would do at a terminal. So I know it's up to date, but we'll check anyway. So I will type in sudo apt update and give it my password for that now, because that's an administrative command. And now it's gone out to the internet and it checks for updates. And I know this machine is not going to prompt me to install an update, because I just did that a little while ago, and it says all packages are up to date, so we're good to go there. If I needed to install updates, I could do that as well. Now, I use a terminal called Terminator, and Terminator allows me to split the terminal up, and now over here I can issue this command to another machine, and we just logged into my Dell laptop. Now, I'm using key authentication here, so that's why it logged right in with no big deal. And you'll notice here that we have a little forward here. It says Y. I'm going to show you what that does next. Because SSH is terminal based, but every now and again you might want to launch an application for one reason or the other on the other end. And you don't need a full remote desktop where you see the entire desktop and get mouse and cursor and you're trying to send all that information. No, you just can use the X server to send the commands from the machine you're logging into to the machine that you're in to draw a picture of whatever's on the screen. To do that, what we're going to have to do here is we're going to have to log out. Just type exit. And now you see it tells me that the connection is closed. And then we're going to log back in. And this time I'm going to add the flag. And this is going to enable X forwarding on this machine. If I would use a -X, it would not only enable the X forwarding, but it would encrypt those X commands so that other people couldn't sniff what was going on and see what we were looking at. And what I'm going to do here is just let's open up something simple. I mean, like I said, this works best for really simple applications. Opening up a web browser with X forwarding, not such a good idea. You might want to set up a remote desktop if you want to do something like that. But for simple applications, it works nice. So let's open up the Mate Control Center. Did I type that right? Yep. So here it comes. So now what's going on here is that on the other end of the machine, it opened up the application, but instead of displaying it on the screen, it is taking the commands from the X server, sending them through the network, and the X client on the machine that I'm sitting at is drawing the picture for us. Pretty cool. So I can open this up and check out settings and do all kinds of stuff with that. So that's X forwarding. I wanted to at least touch on that. I don't use that very often, but it is there. So this is great. I mean, I can get into these machines and run all kinds of commands. I can see what the machine is doing. I'll put htop in here. Let me go ahead and exit out of this machine because I don't need that right now. We need a full terminal. Yeah, sometimes when you use X forwarding, it kind of hangs up like that, but Control C will get you out. So exit again, and now I got a full screen. Now I'm looking to see what the machine is doing, and this is the laptop computer that's on the other side of the house right now. So I can jump in here and check things out, do all kinds of things. One of the things that you can do, which is really useful, is to learn how to use the users command before you do any of this stuff. So if you jump into a machine and you're not in that room and you don't know if somebody else is using it, users will tell you. No, that's not what I wanted to type. Users, thank you. Right now I'm the only person in that machine. If somebody else was in that machine, then we would definitely see something else there. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of that. I think Cindy's logged into the one in the back. So let's log into that machine real quick. Once again. And now if I type users, yeah, you see that she's running on that machine. So before you do anything like restart the computer or something like that, might be a good idea to check and see if there are other users on that machine at the same time. All right, so that's the basics of SSH, and there's a lot to SSH, and I do encourage you to go look and find out more about it. The next thing I want to show you is how to copy files across a network, because this is really useful. I mean, really useful. So to do that today, I have a virtual machine set up, and I do have the SSH server installed here, but it's not fully configured, so I'll have to use password access to get in. But that's okay for a virtual machine. I don't mind, but it will serve its purpose here. So all Linux computers have the SSH client installed. So pretty much any machine that you sit down in front of is going to be able to get into any other machine that's running the server. So I can jump into an SSH session with another machine very easily from a VM, but I've actually put the server up here that's running as well. But I need to know the IP address of this machine, which is really important. because I don't have it set up to do host names on the network, that sort of thing. Some networks have that set up, some don't. I like to use IP addresses. I have my router set up to give IP leases to certain devices. It's not static IPs, which take a little longer to set up, and I kind of change machines around a lot, so I just use IP leases, for those of you who know what that's all about. So anyway, let's figure out what the IP address is on this machine. Okay, I got it right. It only took 3 tries. Okay, so the current IP address on this machine is 192.168.0.23. And we're going to need to know that because I want to send a file to this machine using SSH. And we're going to do that using a command called SCP. Now, you may be familiar with Samba, where you can share files. You may be familiar with setting up a network area storage device. I've got one of those set up, but I rarely ever use it. This is another way to transfer files back and forth quite easily from machine to machine, and this is my go-to method. I no longer run a Samba network, and I don't even have any storage plugged into my network area storage device, simply because of the fact that this is just so easy to transfer stuff back and forth. So what I want to do is I am going to, let's see here, I'm going to switch directories just to make this easier, and we are going to go to desktop, and we're going to go to work, which is a directory that lives on the desktop. Alright, there we are. We're going to list the storage, and you see I have a file in here called vmconfig. So what I want to do is move that file to my VM, because that's where I have all my little cheat files that allow me to set up a VM real quick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the SCP command, which is secure copy over the network. And then I am going to type in VM, use the tab to autocomplete, so I don't have to type all that stuff and get it wrong and make mistakes and you guys laugh at me. And then I'm going to tell it where I'm going to send it. Now, what was that IP address again? Let's go over here and double check. So currently this is 192.168.023. I'm using a bridged adapter, and that changes every now and again when in a virtual machine, so have to kind of double check that. So I'm going to send it to this machine, 192.168.0.23 colon, and this tells it that we're actually going to transfer a file. If you don't have the colon in there, then it doesn't know where to put it. It has no clue. And if I just leave it empty like that, it'll just throw it into my account's home folder on that machine. But I want it to go a specific place, so I'm going to use the tilde to represent my home folder, and we're going to put it on the desktop. And another slash tells it that I don't want to try and replace the desktop, I want it on the desktop. Thank you. Okay, go. And we haven't connected to that machine before, so it prompts us to say, is this really okay? I do not have the key authentication setups. Now it's asking for a password. If I was going to keep that VM around permanently, I would, but for this it works fine. And now you'll see that the file has transferred itself. It is now over on the other machine. We can verify that simply by coming over here, and we will, clear the screen. And now what we're going to do is cd desktop list storage. Yep, our file made it over there. Everything's cool. But if I can't physically get into the machine to do that, like I can here with a VM, I can always double check that by just it asks for the password. And now I am logged into that virtual machine, cd desktop, list the storage, and you'll see our file is there. So there you go. That's basically how that works. And after you get used to doing it that way, you don't want to drag and drop into a Samba network, and you don't want to put it on local area storage and then go pull it down on the other machine and all that stuff. No, no, no. You can just send it directly through. It just goes straight to the machine. No big deal. And it's very easy to do. One of the other things about SCP that's really nice is that it is very, very tenacious. It will make sure that those files get over there even if the internet connection's a little wonky. So if it stops in the middle and you end up having to reconnect for some reason, then it will pick up where it left off, and it is sent securely. So if you're doing it over a network that you think might be, easily compromised, it's going to be really hard for somebody to sniff the data going by and figure out what you're sending. So lots of advantages there. Okay, so let's go ahead and get out of that virtual machine, because the next thing I want to show you is some practical ways that you can use all of this technology to do something that is useful. So let's go ahead and clear that. And what we're going to do is, let me just go ahead and go back to the home directory there. Now, what we're going to do is I'm going to install an application on another machine, and I'm going to configure that application without actually sitting in front of the machine. And I do this all the time. So if I find a really groovy program and I want it on all of my computers, then I can just log in and do this. So I'm going to show you how to do that right now. Okay, so let's log into the machine we want to get into. So we'll just change that last number to 17. And I don't care if you know these IP addresses, because it's on my internal network. And you can try all day and all night to get into my network, but all of this operates behind a firewall, so it doesn't make any difference. You're never getting in. And if you do have SSH and you want to configure it where you can log into somebody's computer over the internet across town, that's an entirely different thing. Chances are you will have to change your router to make an exception for that so that it can be heard on the network, and you must make sure that it's very secure. Use key authentication if you can, simply because of the fact that if anybody can see SSH on the network, you can bet that some bot is going to come by and bang on it. But this is all on just my local machines here. So we're into this machine, and I want to install the application that we're using right now, which is Terminator. Terminator. Now we're installing, oops. I have to put install in there, dummy. Okay, here we go. Now it's installing on this machine, and away we go. So I have Terminator installed on the other machine, but I don't have it configured. I want it to look like what you're seeing here. Now, I could wait until I got up there and went over to that machine, launched the application, and configured it by hand, but why do that when I can just move an already configured file over to that machine that has all of the configuration that it needs? So what we're going to do is, let us split this screen. Now we're on the local machine. Terminator is installed here. And I'm going to change my directory to .config, where I know the files are kept. And just to show you guys, you see that there is a directory here called Terminator. So all of the settings for Terminator are in there. So now what I want to do is move this, actually copy this directory over to the other machine, and we'll use SCP to do that. We're moving a directory, so give it the recursive flag. And we're going to move Terminator. Let's see if I put in term, if that's enough. Yep, that auto-filled. Don't need that extra slash there, but I'll put it in there anyway. Where are we sending it? 192.168.0.17. And if I put a colon there, that tells it I want it to go in the home directory, but in this case I want to put it in the .config directory within the home directory. So I'm going to go ahead and give that a specific path. So we have home, and we're going to put it in .config. Make sure I type that right. And now we put the slash there to just let the system know I want it in that directory. I'm not trying to replace it. And off it goes. I've got everything right. Oh. Believe me, when I'm actually doing this and I'm not trying to make videos and think at the same time, I type a lot better. Somebody put a comment up that the other day. It's just dyslexia. I cannot type and talk at the same time. Anyway, here we go. So I have transferred my files over there, so the next time that I go over to that machine and sit down and I bring up Terminator, guess what? It's already going to be configured. It's going to be ready to rock and roll. So that is the basics of SSH and SCP, moving files back and forth. Now, some of the tools that you can use within SSH, for instance, let's see here. Maybe you want to just check and see what's going on with that machine. I think I showed you guys users already. So users, thank you. Just me on there. I did show you that. Also, if I want to know what the computer is doing at that moment, let's say somebody's using it, I want to know how hard it's working, I can use htop, which is one of my favorites. If I want to check on disk storage over there and see how that's going, then I can use df. Not only will this show me what all of the disks are doing and how much space is available on them, it will also show me things that are mounted to the machine like USB devices, mass storage, and things like that. So df is a good command to get to know. And if you just want to know what's going on with memory, free is good. And I'm using that H on there to give humanly readable output, because if you don't, this is what you get. See, it's a lot easier to use that. We've talked about these commands in the past. And I think that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about in this video, except that I did want to talk about how you control powering off the machines. So once you're done, you may want to restart the machine, or you may want to power it off. For instance, with this Dell laptop machine right here, I want to turn it off, so we're going to use sudo power off. And now that machine has turned itself off, and it says that the connection is closed. And we can reboot a machine that is somewhere else by just entering, doing the command, let's see, sudo reboot. It would do the same thing. Of course, I'm not going to do that because it's a machine I'm on right now, and it would restart the machine. So I think that's about all I wanted to show you. And believe it or not, with just those tools right there, what I showed you, and you can administer the entire network. And once every couple of days, when I think about it, I sit down here and I open up all of the screens and I log into all the machines. Okay, like I can have 3 machines on the same screen here. So we have the HP here. So let's go ahead and log into, go ahead and log into the one in the back again. All right, I can just sit here and have commands running. Very cool. So I wanted to show that to you guys. Hopefully you got something out of the video. I know it went really fast, and I know that I glossed over a lot of things, but the information on how to do all this stuff is either already on my channel or out there on the internet, and I just wanted to kind of do an update and show you guys how I was doing those sorts of things. Please check out Easy Linux on the web. Check out Easy Linux on Facebook. Also, check out easylinux.com if you want me to help you to get started with Linux. I'll be glad to step you through the installation process. Yes, I want to close the terminals. Thank you. And I want to close this video as well. Also, check out freedompenguin.com for lots of great stories about Linux. And that's from contributors like myself. I haven't put anything up there for a while, but a lot of great articles have showed up from other people as well. So do check it out. All right, we're done.